Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review of Tower of Gods Chapter 309, so Season 2 Episode 229. And I'll warn you before we even get into this, well, I guess you probably saw when you clicked on the video, that this is probably going to be a long-ass review because we have a lot to discuss. This is probably one of the biggest, most important chapters we have had. I can't even remember the last time we had a chapter this important to the overall series. This is massive. The implications, not only for what's coming up in the next few chapters or for what's coming up in the Floor of Death arc, but the implications for what's going to be going down towards the end of the series are just freaking huge. Not to mention, it wasn't just explaining things to us, it actually had a really good story going on. So there's just so much to talk about in this one. So I've got a whole full notebook page full of notes here, and we're going to go through this chapter part by part, give some thoughts on it, also some thoughts on the blog post stuff, and let's discuss this a little bit. So like I said, it is possibly one of the biggest chapters in the series, and starting at the beginning, we do have Bomb back at the rice pot asking to be taught to be a god. Now, the God of Guardians points out, this is just a nickname, I'm not actually a god. So I'd kind of be interested, what's the God of Guardians' real name? I kind of hoped at that point he would have just told Bomb his real name. But I thought that it was a hilarious gag with, after that went on, Bomb was like, okay, and then he just turns around to leave, and the God of Guardians freaks out like, yo, that's too cold. So he asks Bomb what happened, so of course Bomb still blames himself for his enemies showing up and him not being able to stop them from taking away his friends, presumably killing them, but nobody else thinks so except Bomb, and of course we as fans don't think so either. Now I like that he also pointed out that greater power can't help them, it can't make everybody happy. Then we have the story of Zahard actually. Zahard asking the God of Guardians, instead of teach me how to be a god, teach me how to be a king so that I can make this tower a place where everyone is happy. And so the God of Guardians taught him, and the power made him king, but it didn't make everyone happy. So that's the same thing. The power could make Mom god, but it can't make everyone happy. So I love that. And during that, we get to see our first ever, that I can remember, our first ever actual silhouettes of Zahard himself. So that's very cool as well. Bomb is, and he points out, Bomb is suffering right now because of his power. He has these enemies coming after him because he's different from the others, because he is powerful. So how would having more power help with that? Wouldn't you get more enemies, even stronger enemies, if you were more powerful? So I like that that could be brought up as well. And the God of Guardians says he cannot be taught how to become a god, but he can be trained to be stronger and to come back to him later. So when Bomb goes back to his team, we see Khun waiting for him, and Khun is super supportive. I loved seeing that side of him here. Yuri and Andrasi, all the stuff this chapter with Yuri and Andrasi was hilarious. I love the way Andrasi's just running around teleporting with Bong Bong, and Yuri just has the little observer chasing her around. Then Khun mentions that Rakiwa and Danwa are probably alive. And I am like, thank you, Khun. That is what all the fans are saying. Finally, somebody in the actual series acknowledging it. They're probably alive. Now, Andrasi also has a really great speech, bringing up how though he's lost some people for the moment, he's gained some new people for the moment as well. Referring to herself, of course, but I mean, hey, also to Beta, who's now with them, to Barrow and Albelda, who were waiting on the train, so they do have some people that have returned to them now. So the next day we see that we see Boro finishing one of the floor tests as Sachi saves Team Bomb from a trap using his vines. Now Boro then brings up to Khun that they should try to balance their positions better. And we see during that Barrow and Albelda are back, and we find out that Andrasi's actually refusing to work. And it's funny, the little comedy bit with Khun, how Khun, even before she got on with them, was like, do we really have to take her on? To show that he's still like, I wish we could just send her back to ship. And Khun also mentions that now that Beta's with them, once they get on the floor of death, Beta will likely serve as their fisherman then. So that, again, very, very interesting. Beta going to serve as their fisherman. Now, that made me want to write down, because I had brought up it seemed weird the way they discussed it in the chapter, and a couple of you brought it up in the comments. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more in the Hot Q&A. But I brought up, I looked up what each of the characters' official, what their like official positions are, and right now we actually have 4 fishermen with us, counting Barrow, Andrasi, Boro, and Beta. Of course, Andrasi and Beta aren't doing anything right now, but they said we are basically without fishermen, but Barrow and Boro should both be fishermen. Now, for right now, they shouldn't have any scout or spear bearer, but Boro says we might need another scout, so that makes me think that even though Boro's technically a fisherman, he is acting as our scout right now, because he is a bit flexible with his abilities, and Boro seems like he'd be able to be a pretty good scout. Now, we don't have a spear bearer that we know of unless Albelda is doing that, and of course Albelda is what I refer to the clone as, because she is Albelda with a bunch of other souls mixed in. So she isn't technically fully Albelda anymore, but we've gone over this a million times. Then light bearers, we only have Kun. Kun is our only light bearer right now. And wave controllers, we actually have Bomb, Sachi, and Irudo. So we do have 3 wave controllers right now. All different types, really. Bomb is more of a striker type. Irudo, I think they said in the past that she's more a support type. And we know, of course, that Sachi is more of a support type wave controller. Now, Ryun is also with us as a guide, and Albelda's with us too, without a given, I would have figured she'd be a fisherman, but she doesn't necessarily have a given role, so maybe she is serving a scout. It's very possible that she could be their scout right now, and that's why Boro was saying they need another one, or she could even be spear bearer. We've seen that she can use her sword powers from a distance, and her sword floats around her and stuff sometimes, so maybe she just uses that, and maybe she is the current spear bearer. Because that was one of the positions they didn't mention needing another one of. But just wanted to do that little discussion really quick about the positions for the team. They next discuss, Bomb, Kun, and Boro discuss looking for Wangnan and his group, but Ryun advises against it and says that the floor of death is right up ahead. So, and she also brings up that it will be very hard for even one of them to survive the floor of death. Even rankers don't like going there. Even with Yuri with them, they are in trouble. So then, once they're done with all of that, Bomb goes back to the God of Guardians to keep his promise of coming back to him with his answer. Evan is going to teach Kun more about using lighthouses, and Yuri forces Andrasi to come with her, presumably to train her as well. So then Bomb says to the God of Guardians that he has decided that he does want more power, and if something goes wrong with him along the way because of that, he'll face the consequences then. And the Guardian God says that Bomb does have a slight difference from Zahard in why he wants power, and that he feels like he's willing to take a chance on him to train him. So the Guardian God then compresses himself into a smaller, more human-sized form, and says that he's going to teach Bomb Shinsu control that's used by the 10 great families. So Bomb is going to be learning a whole new type of Shinsu control, which is very interesting, in addition to the physical close-range Shinsu control attacks that he learned from Ha Jinsung, and the long-range piercing and more direct attack ranged maneuvers that he learned from Yu Han Sung. Now, then we skip to weeks later on floor 40, and I could have sworn that floor 43 was going to be the floor of death. I think that's what most of us assumed it to be, but is it 41? Is it between 40 and 41, like a hidden floor like they said? So the floor of death, it's interesting, if we're really, really close and we're at floor 40, maybe it's not at 43, maybe 43 is something different, but then again, that doesn't make a ton of sense either, because 43 seems like where it should be, because that's where the thorn would be from Enryu killing the Guardian. Who the hell knows at this point? Maybe it is 43, and maybe Ryun's like, 43 is close to 40, we're getting close, even though that seems like a little bit more than close. So we see Wangnan and Misang are still in chains, and Wangnan notes that the weather has been getting colder, so I think I've seen a few people bring it up in the live reaction comments as well. I think it will be amazing if the floor of death is sort of got a different climate, like a snowy really cold and frigid climate, I think that'd be really, really cool, because we have not really seen a wintry, snowy, cold area that I remember within Tower of God. I think the closest we got to that was the floor with the Hand of Arlen. It was a bit more cold and wintry, and everybody was in winter coats, so I would love to see another arc with that sort of setting. So it'd be really cool if the Floor of Death looked like that. But Rachel then brings them coats, and we see that Wangnan still blames himself for what happened, of course, and she brings up something about Wangnan inheriting the blood of Zahard. Now, we still don't know quite what that means, but it seems like it is drastically different from what happens with the princesses. At least, it seems that way to me. But going from there, Rachel says that she's keeping the ring a secret from all the others, especially Joaquin, and that she knows somebody else with one of them. Now, the obvious thing to think is that it's Karaka, but from what SIU says in the blog, and just because it would be more interesting this way, I don't think it is. What if it's a third person, somebody completely different that Rachel knows that has one? That will be very, very cool. Also, she says that she's an irregular working with FUG. Of course, there was a translation issue there in the line translation. And because she's an irregular and she's working with FUG, she has access to a good amount of information. That's how she knows about the ring. So, also, Rachel says that she wants Wangnan to join her and then get the thorn, the real, full, complete thorn that's on the Floor of Death, and says that Bomb only has a piece of it. Now, during this, Rachel is getting a little bit close to Wangnan. Way. Like, she is getting all up for another one of those cavity searches. Way. Hold on, grabbing some water really quick. In the past, I would have edited something like that out, but screw it. I'm sure you guys don't care. Let's just do this all in one go. But Rachel getting a little bit close there, and I know I want to say Rachel looking so cute in that winter coat. Way. But I know now that I've said that, there's so many people don't use Rachel and cute in the same sentence. Like, the rage against the Rachel is real. Now, of course, they say that no one can topple the Empire of Zahard because the door to floor 135 is locked, and half the key was given from Zahard to Ashul Edwaru, and Edwaru made it into the 13-month series. Now, the logic from that, to me, means that the other half, which Rachel says was made into rings, the other half needs to be made into at least 13 rings. I mean, if half of it can make 13 weapons, you'd figure it'd be easy to make like 100 rings, but I mean, that would be a little bit too much. So I'm going to go with 13. 13 rings, 13 weapons. And we know there are at least, from what SIU says, we know there are at least more than 2 of those rings. There's more than just Wangnan and Karaka. So, then she does mention that when the bearers meet at the top of the tower, the door will open. So, again, this is really, really cool for the future of the story, because, like I said in the live reaction, this means that if Bomb's group, our main character group, wants to go to the 135th floor, we're going to have storylines and arcs where we collect all 13 of the 13-month series, collect all 13 of the keys, and that's going to be so cool. I cannot wait until we get stories like that, and we're probably not the only ones. There are probably a lot of groups out there that are looking, especially I would say the Royal Enforcement Division probably is looking for the 13 the 13 rings and the 13-month series in order to open the door when Zahard wakes up. So that is just so cool. And that's another thing that maybe a little mini theory where I'm like, well, if Zahard's been asleep, they said they inherited the blood of Zahard, maybe, I don't want to sound all, I don't know, what is it, like Horcruxes from Harry Potter-ish, but like, if Zahard split himself into the 13 people that have the 13 rings, and they just don't know it. Like, Wangnan's actually a part of Zahard, but he himself doesn't know it. And the same with Karaka, and maybe Karaka does know it, and that's why he's like, Rage Against the Machine, I'm a Slayer now, look at me. Maybe something like that. Maybe that's it. Maybe when he went to sleep, he put some of his power into 13 kids, and that's what happened to Wangnan. who knows? There is still so much to learn about Zahard, and I'm sure that somebody's probably even had a similar theory to that once before already. And then the very last thing we see, the only thing I haven't mentioned yet, is that there is this badass looking guy watching on from the next station who is presumably the strongest D-rank scout that we're about to meet. Now, lots of blog info here. SIU says that he has the flu, and that might explain the sort of half-length chapter kind of that we got last week. It was pretty short. I mean, it might explain it, but I mean, I figure he got the flu, I don't know, that he probably wrote that like 5 weeks ago or something because of the preview service and all. Also, he says that this is probably like one of the most important turning points in all of season 2. We then have he talks about how we've gotten so much info on Wangnan, Karaka, the future plot, and whoever Rachel knows. Mention it, like saying whoever Rachel knows pretty much is like kind of saying that whoever she knows isn't Karaka. So I think it's cool that she knows somebody else with one of the rings. And he even refers to Wangnan and Karaka as princes in quotation marks. So it's kind of interesting that it's like they're not like the princesses in the way that they're made, but they do have some sort of mysterious connection to Zahard for sure. Also, he mentions that a new important character is arriving next chapter, which of course is going to be that scout or whatever. And also, again, one of the reasons why I don't read the preview service, he says that from the preview service to the actual release of this chapter, he ended up going in and adding a lot of stuff and changing a lot of the stuff that was already there. So I like that. I like that he, even when he was like, he submitted it to the preview service, then he went back in and added a bunch and changed a bunch. I love that. And I assume he does it a little bit here and there, but he specifically mentioned in this blog that he changed and added a lot this time. So my overall thoughts on the chapter, amazing. A huge chapter. Like I said, one of the biggest, most important chapters we've had since I can remember. I loved Andraste and Yuri stuff. It was very, very funny. I'm excited for the future, both the near future and the far future. The door, the key, the 13 months, the rings of which I think are 13, and even way before that, just going into this next station and meeting this new character I'm excited for. I'm excited for going to the Floor of Death. There's so much good stuff happening. And my favorite part of this chapter, I loved the Rachel and Wangnan conversation. It was so, so good. I also liked to see... I liked seeing Bomb's team again, like just seeing him with, seeing Boro and Sachi, even if just for a little bit, even though they didn't say anything, seeing Albelda and Barrow again. I liked seeing Ryun talk to us again, so there was a lot of good stuff that I liked this chapter, in addition to it just being a huge info dump. So because of all that, it's without a doubt worthy of a perfect score. This is, like I said, very important to the overall plot of the entire series. So definitely 10 out of 10. 10 ring keys out of 10. I don't know, 10 rings. So yeah, perfect score. Loved it, and I'm really interested to see what you guys thought. So like if you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of this week's chapter, what you thought of my thoughts on it. I have seen so many of you leaving comments on the live reaction, so many of you so excited about this, that I am glad that there are so many people so excited and happy for this, just as excited and happy or more than I am. Whew. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe for more Tower of God stuff and much, much more on the channel. I don't know, is next week is going to be the day after Christmas, so I don't know if they're going to push it back a few days, if the translators are taking any time off for Christmas. I don't know what we're going to be doing next Monday, so if the chapter's late, of course the live reaction and review will have to be late as well, so we'll just have to see what goes down. But either way, that's it. Like, comment, subscribe, follow on Twitter if you want, and I'll see you all next time.